All right, so this demo is a review on the jeweler's saw, how the saw works, different techniques to use, and also some specifics on how to apply it directly to coin cutting. So essentially you're going from a regular quarter like this to something that's been pierced out and the internal piece is removed so that it can be worn as a pendant or another piece of jewelry, right? So the first thing we need to talk about is setup. Your guys' quarter already has a hole punched through it, but I do want to show you the tool that is used to accomplish that. So this is called a metal hole punch. Essentially the way it works is there are two pieces that screw down tightly, and as it screws through this hole, it punches out the piece of metal. So I just have a scrap piece of copper. I'm going to slide it in here, tighten this down, and gradually it removes that piece of copper. So once it's been punched through, I'm going to loosen it, take my copper out, and you have a hole. So that was done already for you on your quarter. After you have your quarter set up, you can set up your bench pin. So this is what a bench pin looks like. There's two pieces. Essentially, it's a clamp that holds a piece of wood down to the table. So you loosen this up, slide the wood through here, and then tighten it. Your table goes right here. Okay, so I'm gonna put that on my table really quick. It's important to know that the wood should slope down. So here's my bench pin. The wood slopes down at an angle towards the ground. This also doubles as an anvil. So if you're needing to hammer stuff throughout the process, you can hammer on this without damaging your table. So I got my bench pin set up. Now I just need to set up my jeweler's saw. So here's my saw frame. Remember, the way it works is this distance can be adjusted by loosening this piece right here. So that is how you tighten your saw blade. You don't really want to use a saw blade like this. That's not enough room to really utilize the blade very well. So you want to use as much room as you can, okay? These two pieces are where you insert your blade. So these loosen, and as they loosen, you can see there's some space in between here that when it tightens, it closes and clamps your blade in place, okay? So that's the way your frame works. You guys have a bundle of saw blades. So they come in bundles of 12. So you can see it looks like one thick piece of wire, but it's actually a bunch of wires bundled together. To undo that, you just need to find the end of this tiny wire, unwind it, and your saw blades will fall apart, okay? So you're only using one. And as a reminder, you want the blades to be pointed, or the teeth to be pointing down and away. So I don't know if I can show you up close. Those blades are pointing down. So if I'm holding it straight up towards the floor, and I want them pointing out from my saw frame, okay? So I'm gonna really quickly put my blade in there. I like to kind of balance the jeweler's saw on my torso while I'm tightening this, so it kind of keeps it secure. So that's what I'm doing right now. And I always start with the top. So I'm gonna insert the blade on the top, tighten the top down. So right now I have the bottom portion loose, okay? Before I put the bottom on, I'm gonna double check, did I put the saw blade in the correct way? And it looks like I have, okay? If I was sawing from the outside edge of this copper, I would attach it to the bottom and just start sawing from the outside. Since we are doing piercing, which means sawing an internal shape, before I attach the bottom piece, I'm going to put my quarter on with Washington facing up. If I can steady it. So Washington facing up so I can see where I'm sawing. Now I'm going to attach the bottom. Okay, so it's going in that clamp, tightening them both really good. And so now I have it threaded. The last step is I just need to tighten this so that it saws effectively and doesn't break my blade. The best way to do that is to kind of hold it on this piece here, push up, so I'm applying quite a bit of pressure with my thumb up, and then I'm gonna tighten this as I'm pushing, okay? So that keeps it nice and tight. The tighter your blade, the better it's going to saw. If you're using a loose blade, it's gonna snap. And periodically through my project, I'm going to re-tighten that thing because it does kind of loosen up over time. So make sure everything's tight and you are good to begin sawing. All right, so I have everything set up. My project has been threaded on my saw frame, the blade is tight, and I am ready to go. Now I'm at my bench pin. The nice thing about the bench pin is it overhangs a little bit so you can kind of lean over it. It's a little bit more comfortable to carve or saw on. If you don't have a bench pin, the best solution is to just get a piece of wood, like a 2x4, and a clamp, and clamp it down to a table. If that doesn't work, you can just get something else to elevate it off the table, a shoebox. I have another big block of wood here that I've used. You just don't really want to be sawing on the edge of a table because you'll notice that as the saw blade travels through the project, you can actually start to saw on the actual wood. So you don't want to damage any furniture or countertops at home, okay? So those are your options. We're going to use a bench pin in class. You'll notice my bench pin has a little notch cut out of it. That is for support, so that I can be working on my project and sawing in this gap while also supporting it on both sides, right? So you're always welcome to cut a notch into your wood. I like to do it that way. It makes it a little bit easier to work with, okay? So I'm gonna grab my project, I'm gonna balance it on that notch, and I'm going to start sawing at a 45-degree angle, okay? Once I've started a little bit, I'm going to straighten back out, and it's kind of hard to see with it going in and out of focus. And I'm just gonna work my way around Washington's head. You'll see tiny pieces of metal that are starting to kind of pull up, and I would just occasionally brush those away so you can see where you're working. Once you get to a point that you need to make a turn, you're going to hold your project, saw up and down without going forward, and gradually turn your blade, okay? I also will continually be changing the direction of my project so that I'm continuously sawing straight ahead, okay? So I'm gonna go through and do that all the way around Washington. I'm not pushing too hard forward. If you push too hard or apply too much pressure, you can snap your blade. So you wanna just take it easy. The saw blade is going to kind of dictate which speed you should be going. But you can see I've already sawed quite a bit. So it does go pretty quick. You just kind of have to find that groove of sawing, right? Remember, if you are having issues in class, you can use what's called burr life. It's essentially just beeswax. So you can apply some of that. If you don't have it at home, that's fine. You might just wear out your saw blades a little bit quicker. So you just need to change out your saw blades. Something that will break your blades really quick, and I just did, is if you are changing the angle of your saw frame too much. So if you're twisting this side to side, you're going to snap your blade, right? The nice thing about where this snapped is I can take out the bottom portion because it's not very much in the middle, and then just shorten my blade, right? So I can reattach that and still use this. If it gets much shorter, like I wouldn't try to saw like that. That's just gonna be a headache, okay? So I'm gonna go through, I'm gonna finish sawing out around Washington's head, and then we will go over how to do the filing and finish work in the next video.